Monaco. Gordon is a four-time NASCAR Winston Cup champion and the only man to win the Brickyard 400 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway 3 times. Montoya won the kart champ car title in his rookie year and is one of only 2 men to win both the Indianapolis 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix. Today, these 2 champions, each so closely identified with his own form of motorsport, return to the site of one of each man's greatest triumphs to do something unprecedented. They will be trading paint at Indy. Each year, the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway hosts 3 of the biggest motorsports events of the year. Today, it welcomes the ultimate motorsports busman's holiday as Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya do a little trading paint. 2 men, Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya, each at the top of his game, getting into a completely unfamiliar race car to see if he can live by the 7-word motto of the racing driver, "Let me see what I can do."
Well, Steve, I'll tell you about this NASCAR Winston Cup stock car, just a few elements about it. First of all, it resembles a stock automobile, weighs 3,400 pounds, and that's without the driver. Underneath the hood is basically a stock engine, 8 cylinders with a naturally aspirated carburetor, no fuel injection, makes about 850 horsepower. RPM-wise, we're going to be turning about 9,000. Anything over 9,000 makes our motor man pretty nervous. Now, the transmission in the car, it's a 4-speed transmission with somewhat of a conventional clutch. Driver has to use the clutch, and look, it has a shift lever about like your 65, 66 Chevelle.
Wow.
Back in the back, it holds 22 gallons of fuel, and it's full of fuel. The motor's running unrestricted 9,000 RPMs. We get about 4.5, maybe 5 miles to the gallon. Now, talk about downforce with the fenders pulled all the way out, rear spoiler maxed out. Total, we make about 1,600 pounds of downforce. And the thing about it, race-ready engine car, about $150,000. Tell me about your piece over here.
Awesome. Larry, what we're looking at here is the Williams, the FW24 chassis. This is last year's Williams chassis. It won 1 race in Malaysia, but basically a very good chassis. It was there or thereabouts all year long. We're looking at a 3-litre V10. Now, your engine, pretty low revving in comparison to this one, Larry. This fella under the bodywork here, 19,000 RPM, 900 horsepower.
Wow.
It's a terrific machine. You can see, we're showing now the wheel, you see the paddle lever there and everything, so no gear shift like we see in the Cup car right over there. Carbon fiber suspension. This is going to be an awesomely fast beast, and I think it's going to be a great day, the comparison between these 2. Larry?
Bob, there you have it. That's the 2 cars that Jeff and Juan's going to be driving today. It's going to be interesting.
All right, thanks, guys. As you see, Juan Pablo Montoya will be first up in Jeff Gordon's DuPont Chevy. Let's meet Gordon now, standing by with Ralph Shaheen.
All right, Bob, thanks. And, Jeff, you were just saying you're a little nervous. Is that because you're getting in the Williams or because Juan just got in your Cup car?
It's because he just got out of his Formula One Williams car and he just got into the stock car. I mean, the 2 are going to be so drastically different. From me getting into his car and him getting into my car, it's just totally different sides of the world as far as, you know, the technology and the grip and the acceleration. But he's excited, and he looks like he's ready to have some fun, and I can't wait to get behind the wheel of his car.
What kind of warnings did you give him? What did you tell him to expect?
You know, we talked about braking zones. I mean, he's braking at the 50 meter. I said, you know, maybe 250, 300 meter with this thing. And, you know, we'd never been to this track before, and it's really flat, and there's actually not a lot of grip for our cars. We like banking. But the car you can play around with it pretty good. But I think the biggest thing is just not to overdrive it, you know, in the corners. You know, you can get yourself in a little bit of trouble there. And then, you know, the shifting is just, he's got 4 speeds, and it's such a delay in between brakes, downshift, where his car is just brake downshift, as many as you can get, you know?
And Bob, think about this. He's only been around an F1 car for a few minutes now. He's already talking in meters instead of yards and feet.
Jeff Gordon and his crew chief Robbie Loomis are going to be keeping their fingers crossed as Juan Pablo Montoya makes his way around. This is the actual chassis with which Jeff Gordon has won 6 NASCAR Winston Cup road races at Watkins Glen and Infineon Raceway in Sonoma, California.
I mean, obviously, Jeff has a phenomenal record on the road courses between Watkins Glen and Infineon. 20 starts, 7 wins, and you mentioned of those 7 wins, 6 of them has been in his car, 4 poles, 14 top 10 finishes in 20 races. He's always been pretty outstanding on the road courses.
Let's go down to the garage area. Ralph Shaheen is standing by with Jeff Gordon. Let's see what he thinks of what Juan Pablo's doing.
Well, we're sitting down here and having a lot of fun talking about it, and you say his line's pretty good, huh?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's being real smooth, which, I mean, come on, he's a Formula One road course driver. He's doing great. Everything looks good. I don't know what kind of times he's running yet, but it looks like he's having fun. He's enjoying. He hasn't pulled in yet, so I think that's a good sign.
And it didn't seem like it took him too long to get up to speed either. Were you surprised by that?
No, not at all. You know, I mean, he's an experienced race car driver, and you know, I think that you have to take it to a certain speed just to really get a good feel for it. But he knows this track better than I know it, and you know, after getting your braking areas, and he overshot turn 1. So now he knows how deep he can go into turn 1.
So does that take a little heat off of you now that he made a boo-boo?
Well, I almost did the same thing in that car earlier, so it has quite a bit of front brake to it just to be safe. But I cranked a little bit more rear to it just to make sure that you know, he could get in there nice and deep.
When I was watching you this morning warming up out here, you were really sliding coming through what would be turn 1 going the other way for the Indy 500. Is a little bit not normal for this car at this racetrack.
Well, believe it or not, that's a fast corner right there. You know, for especially for a road course car. But you know, I think that we thought we'd be more flat out through there, but you're really not. It's nice to have the bankings, obviously an area you can get some speed, but you can't go wide open. The cars are set up to turn right, but mainly as tight as the inside of the course is, the outside is pretty you know, sweeping, and so the car is a little bit loose through those sweeping faster right-handers, but it handles great for the inside of the track.
You know, you and I have known each other for a long time, and I can honestly tell you, you're geeking. How wired are you for getting inside this car?
I've got to say, this is probably the coolest experience I've ever had, and I haven't even gotten in the car yet. You know, just the fact to be able to do this in Indianapolis, you know, to know I'm going to get behind the wheel of a Formula One car, you know, to get Juan behind the wheel of my car. This is awesome, man. It's just getting in that car, and they fired it up. And I did what they do, a box test or box check or something like that, where we actually put it in gear, release the clutch, which is on the steering wheel, and I go up through the gears, down through the gears. I did that twice. I was like, man, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. So I know there's a lot of people that are envious of me right now, and I'm on top of the world. This is great.
Yeah, I had a feeling when Jeff goes on to Michigan this weekend for the Winston Cup race, I imagine a few guys are going to want to come by and say, well, what was that like, driving a Formula One car?
He will be a very popular item, trust me, regardless of how he performs at Michigan.
Robbie Loomis was over here taking down every piece of data he's got on his sheet down here, and I'm not so sure. Robbie, does this count against a NASCAR test?
Oh, no, this isn't a NASCAR test. We don't run the road course. We'll have to talk to Juan about the inside road course. Just like I said, he did a great job with the car. His comments very similar to Jeff on the right-handers. The car was a little bit loose. We're going to try to tighten the car up and, like I said, have some fun with it. We're going to watch Jeff in his now and see if Juan gives him little instructions on what to do out there.
Should be a lot of fun, Bob.
Hey, Ralph, has Robbie
Larry
Loomis figured out the difference between understeer and oversteer yet?
Well, let's see. We could ask him. Hey, Robbie, Larry Mack wanted to know, did he figure out the difference between oversteer and understeer yet?
Yeah, he's locked. When he's got lock, we're loose right now.
There you go.
Well, as you can see, they're going to crunch the numbers. Jeff Gordon is going to take over Juan Pablo Montoya's Formula One Williams BMW.
Jeff Gordon, the point leader, comes off the corner and becomes a three-time winner of the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis.
Welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A moment ago, this was Juan Pablo Montoya, winner of the Monaco Grand Prix, telling Jeff Gordon how to use this steering wheel. Don't start shuffle steering because those shift levers are right where you need them.
Yeah, the only thing the Winston Cup car has on the steering wheel, the only buttons, is the radio button, and then there's a kill switch on there should your throttle. But I look how small that steering wheel is, and of course we run a conventional steering, Steve, that's about a 12-to-1 steering box. And I was also seeing Kyle Busch in the background, who's driving for Hendrick now. I think he actually shook down a show car here yesterday to help the guys determine some gearing. But we run a conventional steering, about a 12-to-1 box on a road course with a fairly good-sized steering wheel, which slows that steering down as well.
It's a much quicker rate of steering we put on the Formula One boxes. I was looking around the car earlier on with Dickie Stanford, the team manager from Williams, and they're running an Estoril power steering rack on the car. They basically build the steering racks for each different circuit with the amount of assistance to give to the driver. You want the drivers really to use as little assistance as possible, but they put assistance on the car vary it from circuit to circuit, but you're right, really on an F1 car you can go about 3/4 of a turn from lock to lock, but as Bob was rightly saying, you don't want to go more than that because the upshift is on the right hand side, the downshift is on the left. You start crossing over a little bit and get confused.
Now, I'm right in saying on the Formula One car, as long as you're wide open throttle, the upshifts are actually done electronically by RPMs, I guess, to maximize the power through each gear.
Yeah, well, this is the big debate in Formula One now, the technology versus the driver. But basically, we can control the upshifts by computer, you can control it by the driver pulling the upshift, or you can control the upshift and downshift on buttons. So you've got a multitude of options. You take your pick.
You don't want to give a NASCAR driver too many options.
And those shifts happen literally in less than the blink of an eye. Now, veteran Formula One fans here on Speed Channel know what you're looking at right now, adjustments to the race car. And hey, when you've got a car, so rest of the gang for the NASCAR Winston Cup Michigan 400 live on Fox. We are live at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the weather is holding off, and that's great news. Jeff Gordon is getting ready to climb into a Formula One car for the first time ever. Ralph Shaheen is down there.
Well, I'm standing here with Pablo Montoya. This is Jeff's parents are here as well. Nobody wanted to miss this, and I can give you an update on the times. I talked to Robbie Loomis. Robbie said Juan was just a second off of the times that Jeff was running this morning, and he got there very fast, very consistently. He did that on both laps, so they were very impressed with it. And as Jeff gets strapped in and gets ready to go, he did. I asked him if he had done anything to prepare for this, and he did. He did the ultimate racer preparation thing. He broke out the video game. He got Juan's car, ran Indianapolis, and that's what he practiced on getting ready for today.
I tell you what, those games are so good. That's the way to do it. I'll tell you a little story about both men. Both are well known by NASCAR team manager Andy Graves with Target Ganassi Racing. Andy knew Jeff in his USAC days in sprints and midgets and his early Winston Cup days. And he also knows Juan Pablo Montoya well, having been team manager for the Ganassi team that won the Indianapolis 500 with Juan Pablo here in 2000. Now, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway issued a press release, a conversation with Andy, who is not here. He said he's been trying to get Juan Pablo Montoya into a Cup car for years. Welcome back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There is Jeff Gordon in Juan Pablo Montoya's Williams BMW, about to roll on to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the first time. As you can see, they're having to take sort of a circuitous route out of the southernmost of the garages here at IMS. Like a big right-hand turn here. Let's get down to Ralph Shaheen.
Bob, one of the big things that Jeff was really spending a lot of time with the BMW engineers about was getting this car launched. It's a very tricky thing, as Steve Magic can explain. There's a lot of steps you have to go through. In fact, launching the space shuttle is probably easier.
Well, I guess they would have turned the launch control off, Ralph, at the moment. What Jeff's doing is just feathering that throttle. Remember that the clutch mechanism is on the steering wheel, and he's got to get used to the fact of using the clutch with his fingers as opposed to the left foot. But he's away and didn't stall the engine at all there, so pretty good so far. Remember, this, I guess, will be a one-lap installation lap back in just to make sure that Jeff's comfortable in the car.
You know, I was hearing Juan's dad talk about the biggest misconception is just how far you can drive these cars. And I guess coming up here this morning, my thoughts would be that Jeff Gordon would probably underdrive the Formula One car, and Juan probably would be guilty of overdriving the Winston Cup car just because of what they're used to in their respective cars.
Well, better to break too early than too late. And that is the kind of thing we hear from new drivers in Formula One cars all the time, even if they have single-seat or open-wheel experience in things like Formula 3000 or what have you. The stopping power of a Formula One car of the modern age is perhaps even more awesome than its ability to get going.
Look at there. That helmet with those flames on it, they look like they belong in a Formula One car.
It does look good.
But I'm going to tell you what, we had Jeff Gordon on our trackside show about a year ago, and we talked to him about open-wheel cars and Formula One cars. And you could tell, even then, when this probably wasn't even a thought, very excited about the possibility one day of doing exactly what he's doing here today. And as I talked to him there in the garage here this morning, very focused and very excited about what he was fixing to do.
Here's the beginning of the longest stretch of flat-out running in Formula One. 3,000 feet straight away, plus Indy Turn 1, and all the way down to Turn 12, the road course. As Steve mentioned, Jeff will bring it in. The team will look it over, see if he's okay to give it some stick.
Steve, it's my understanding when they're here racing the Formula One cars at the end of this front stretch that Bob was talking about, will they be reaching speeds probably at 220, 225 miles per hour headed into turn 1?
Yeah, you're right, Larry. It's about between 200 and 220 miles an hour. Much of it depends on the wing that they run, because they can change the downforce level so considerably, really dependent on tyre grip and on prevailing weather conditions as well. You see the car in this configuration for Jeff will be set up with a huge amount of downforce on the car just to try and nail the car to the track for him, to help him as much as possible. What the engineers will do now when they pull the car back in, they'll make sure that Jeff's comfortable in the car with the controls. They will also look at the telemetry data coming off the car to see how comfortable Jeff is with using the clutch control, and they can adjust the amount of free play that the potentiometer will give the electronics, so you can vary the amount of feel on the fingers to feel onto the clutch. So if you're struggling a little bit and you think you're about to stall the car, the engineers can tweak that a little bit just to make the driver a tad more comfortable in the car.
We'll take a quick break while the team does its work. Juan Pablo Montoya leans in to give Jeff a little help and support. We'll take a break and come back to catch all of his laps. We're at Indianapolis. Trading paint. Stay with us. Watch two of the fastest drivers in the world as they trade race cars. Jeff Gordon is in Juan Pablo Montoya's Williams BMW. Let's listen in a little bit as they debrief.
Just build it up. Oh yeah. Yeah. Any dramas, come back in with the silver out for you.
Looks like the team is giving him some instructions for his next run.
Yeah, this is very important, that conversation between the driver and the engineers, Larry. I guess exactly the same in all forms of racing. You've got to get the feedback from the driver to the engineers so that everyone's working in the same direction, right?
Yeah, and the thing that amazes me, Steve, is y'all are actually able to use data acquisition, telemetry, even in race conditions.
Yeah.
NASCAR will not allow us to do that at no time under their sanction. The only time we can use data acquisition is when we're at the racetrack privately testing. We run 36 races a year, and we only run 2 road courses. I think every one of you guys is races on a road course.
That's right, yeah, we don't do any oval work at all. I've always been fascinated to see a Formula One race put onto an oval course.
That would be something to see. Let's get down to the garage and Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Bob, we were going to talk to Juan here for just a second. He just stuck his head inside the cockpit to give Jeff one last bit of instruction. They're spending a lot of time talking about the steering wheel. And you can see from inside here, Juan is talking to this. Juan, what were you telling him about the steering wheel?
I just said, first when he lifts, just don't be scared of getting more throttle, and if he would spin or something, because the traction control, the car wouldn't spin around to disable the traction control, but that was it, He said it was pretty good fun, we'll see.
They're getting ready to fire this thing up and get Jeff out of here, and it's going to get real loud real fast with 19,000 RPMs in there.
Oh, yeah. I was down in that garage this morning as they were firing up the engine. Actually, they fired up both cars. And just to see the cars visually sitting one next to the other is one thing. To fire them up and getting that deep, throaty, heavy iron V8 sound from the Cup car, and then to listen to this BMW get up to about 17,000, 18,000 RPM. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, Steve, these things idle at almost what a Winston Cup car turns wide open. I think they idle at about 7,000 RPMs, don't they?
Yeah, in the pit stops, you want to get the thing to tick over at about 10,000 RPM to keep the hydraulic pump working well, because the hydraulics control the throttle mechanism. It also controls the gear selector mechanisms as well. It's the same system that used to control the active suspension, but of course that's been banned by the FIA. But you need to keep the revs up in the pit stop so the hydraulics work. Otherwise, you click and the clutch fails on you.
Now, you open the door. I'm going to walk through it. You mentioned pit stops. We're not going to see a pit stop here today, but I've always been jealous of a Formula One pit stop. When we have a Winston Cup pit stop, we had 7 guys, no more. At a Formula One pit stop, it looks like a large family reunion when they go to service that car.
An average of about 17 people.
Only 17?
17 to 18 people take part.
You got to practice just to stay out of each other's way on a Formula One pit stop.
Yeah, it can get a little bit crowded down there, but about 17 to 18 people. Remember, you've got 3 people on each corner. You've got 2 to 3 guys doing the refueling, front jack, rear jack, lollipop guy controlling the whole thing, and somebody else normally trying to keep the car stable by holding the roll hoop when it's on the jack. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of synchronized work.
Do you understand anything you talk about roll hoop or anything?
A little bit. I've done some Formula One.
Now, and already you can see the difference, I think, already with Jeff. Much more on the pace. He's still going well under race pace, but he looked down there, the confidence is building already.
And this would be one of the the few Formula One tracks, Steve, that you guys go to where there's no really elevation changes? Most of your tracks have elevation changes?
Yeah, there are a lot of elevation changes. I mean, certainly the great circuits like Spa, for example, is very uphill and down dale. This very flat, of course, the F1 infield section built right in the inside of the oval. But technically speaking, I find this track a lot of fun because you've got that great contrast between the long straightaway section that you just saw now, and as we come to the end of the short back straight, the Horman Boulevard, now back into the tight infield section again. So there is your classic example of what you do when you come off the straight to set the car up for the tight infield section. You've got to get the downforce on the car to make the car stick to the track going round the corners. You want to get the downforce off the car for the long straight. It's got to be a compromise because you cannot adjust the wings once the car's moving.
Just last week at Pocono, your partner DW said, no matter how long you do this, Larry, you always learn something new. And I can remember, Steve, when we did the first Formula One Grand Prix here in Indianapolis, these teams with their hundreds of millions of dollars in budget and all the computer simulations and the wind tunnel work that goes on 24/7, they came here with a setup that proved to be quite a bit off the mark from what they needed.
Yeah, this is the problem right here, this long front straight down into turn one. I was going to see Jeff now hit the brakes. You want to optimize the straight line speed down there, like you're saying, 200, 215 miles an hour, but you want the downforce on the car here. So what do? You've got to compromise. Well, Ferrari found that they were going faster, Bob, in that first race by taking wing off the car, maximising that straight speed down the straight. BAR found they were working exactly the opposite direction. Villeneuve saying the more wing we put on, the more stable the car became. The lap time dropped again. So, right, different ends of the spectrum.
Seen a little vibration from our onboard cameras. We're not using the FIA, well, we're using their mounts, but we have our own onboard cameras, and you can see that vibration from these incredible engine revs. That's probably pretty much what the driver's eyeballs are doing as well. Let's get down to Ralph Shaheen.
Well, we're down here with Juan Montoya, who's got some of Jeff Gordon's crew behind him here. You're watching on the big screen. What do you think, Juan?
I think it's really good. I'm pretty impressed, to get, he's in the pace pretty quickly, and, the cars are pretty tough to drive, and he looks quite comfortable in it. It's really amazing. I've never been in a Formula 1 car, and he's doing really good.
We saw him go off in the one corner, and the guys in the booth were talking about how difficult it is to figure out the turning areas of the racetrack and how to set the car up for that. How difficult is it to, when you first get in the car, to acclimatize yourself to that and to the racetrack itself, as we've seen with Jeff?
It wasn't that difficult. It was a lot of fun, and it, just the car is so good, that it's very predictable and everything good to some extent.
What's going to be the toughest thing for him in this car?
Braking, to really get to the braking point, because he told me you got to brake like into 250. In the F1 we brake about the 50.
How long did it take you to get acclimatized to the braking then?
Well, it's a bit weird because you brake and it's like when the F1 when you lift, because there's so much down for the cars go, then when you lift you lose some speed that it's like just lifting. But you're trying to slow down the car quick enough to make the corner. It's pretty exciting.
All right, Bob, everybody watching the big monitor.
I'll bet they are.
I tell you what, guys, I clocked Jeff on that lap there at a minute 20, just a little over minute 20 seconds, minute 20:48, and I'm being told that is a pretty good lap. And just to put it in perspective, that's about 20 seconds quicker than Juan ran in the Winston Cup car.
It's about 10 seconds off the Formula One, the ultimate all-time Formula One qualifying lap around this place. Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari last year went 110.790. The 107% rule, the old rule that dictated you had to be within 107% of the pole time in order to get into the field. Last year, 1 minute 15.745. If Jeff gets under a minute 20, he is doing something spectacular.
He just picked up almost 2 seconds on that lap from the lap before that. 1 minute 18.85. Pretty good, Steve.
Oh, it's excellent. I was talking to Dickie Stanford again this morning. He was just saying when Juan Pablo was doing some installation work on the car, setting the car up this morning, JPM was turning laps of about 117, 117.2. So already for Jeff Gordon to learn to 118, this is a sure sign of professional racing driver easily adapting to the different equipment. It's quite staggering.
There's a lot of smiles, I'm guessing, out there in NASCAR land among the legions of NASCAR fans watching a 4-time Winston Cup champion take this Grand Prix car and wring its neck a little bit.
Now, I tell you what, I find that quite interesting that Jeff Gordon's done to very quickly. And JPM was alluding to it there as we just went down to him with Ralph Shaheen, was under braking. When the driver lifts off in an F1 car, you get so much drag that there's an awful lot of deceleration there, even before the driver touches the brakes. When the driver hits the brakes again and the car slows more and that downforce starts to come off, very, very easy to lock the brakes. All that huge downforce pushes the tyres into the track, keeps the thing moving in a straight line. But if you overbrake when the downforce comes on the car, you can be off in an absolute heartbeat. But Jeff Gordon, I have to say, is adapting it remarkably quickly. I'm very impressed.
Let's get back down to Ralph.
Well, that's John Bickford over there, just getting off the phone. He's been holding the phone up there so everybody can hear Jeff going around in the F1 car, and I got his mom here, Carol Bickford. Well, we had a chance to talk to Juan's dad. What do you think? How's your boy doing out there, John?
Real cool. Real cool. I don't even, my vocabulary is not broad enough to come up with a description for this. This is like a life dream. I'm 56 years old, been dreaming about this since just 5 years old. So that's been, what is he, 31, so 26 years I've been dreaming of him being in a Formula One car. And best car in the world, a BMW, you know, what can I say? Best day of my life.
You know, Carol, I know you've seen your son go through so many stages and have so many accomplishments in his career. How does he react to come to this one today? How excited was he?
I don't think I have seen him with a smile that big on his face for a long time. He picked me up at the hotel this morning, knocked on the door, and he had a huge grin on his face. He couldn't wait to get over here.
I think it's kind of great, Bob. We got the ultimate Little League parents going on here today between Juan's dad and mom here and Jeff's parents. They're all excited watching their boys living out their dreams.
No question about that. John Bickford is Jeff's stepdad, a huge figure in Jeff's Formula years in racing. Let's ride with him for a while.
He just picked up another second from that second lap, minute 17:89. Talk about the de-acceleration, acceleration. Just watch Jeff Gordon's head when he gets on the brake go forward and watch it kick back on acceleration. Even when he shifts.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Jeff is sitting nice and low in that chassis as well below the air intake. Something very critical for the engineers. They want the driver to be sat low, A, for the centre of gravity and get the mass of the driver down low, but you want the helmet well clear of that air intake on the roll hoop, because that'll drastically affect the performance out of the lump.
And it's funny you mentioned the center of gravity, because listen to Juan talk about the stock car not being very forgiving. I mean, that's the thing. Everything's so high. I mean, the lowest point of a stock car is the left front corner at 4.5 inches off the ground. Minute 17:29. That's another half second.
Keeps doing this, he's going to qualify for the Grand Prix.
But talking to John Bickford this morning, Jeff's father, he said that the closest thing that Jeff has been to in a car like this was when he was 18 years old. He drove a Super V over at IRP road course. But again, using that same analogy, he said compared to the Formula One go-kart to a Winston Cup car. And they came out of the press box and said, who's in that car? He's about a second quicker than most anybody we've had here running these things.
There's a great shot. See how low down he's set in the car. That's great. He'll impress the engineer just from that alone. He's got the physique for a Formula One driver.
Well, we have a moment. We want to thank the Williams and the Hendrick teams, the folks from BMW and Chevrolet, all of their sponsors, everybody involved in making this happen. Of course, that includes the staff of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll take a break and return with more Trading Paint on what is now a beautiful day in Indianapolis. Stay with us. Welcome back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We just got a fist pump out of the Williams BMW from Jeff Gordon. As we welcome you back to Trading Paint, Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya trading race cars. Is this a publicity stunt? You bet it is. And we hope you got your tickets for the 10th Brickyard 400 coming up the weekend of August 3rd and the 4th U.S. Grand Prix at Indianapolis the weekend of September 28th. There's the phone number, 1-800-822-INDY, I-N-D-Y, to get your tickets.
Is this kid having fun or what?
Oh, boy, he is impressive. I mean, it's Jeff Gordon. I mean, we should expect this. But boy, oh boy, he has taken to this like a veteran.
I was asking the mechanics how comfortable Jeff was in the car, because it's normal procedure for a new driver to have a new carbon fiber seat mate molded to his contours of his backside and his back to make sure he's absolutely 100% comfortable. Larry, how much seat fitting goes off in the Cup Car Championship? I'm talking about the comparison because the mechanic said straight away, Jeff was fine. We gave him one of Montoya's seats. He didn't complain. We said that was fine. How was the pedal positions? He said he was comfortable. We didn't adjust them for him. I said, did you give him the option? We never said anything to him. He was comfortable. We walked away from him. Said it was fine.
Well, there's a lot of work that goes into the cockpit of a Winston Cup car, because what you have to remember, they're in there for 400- and 500-mile races, you know, 3.5, 4 hours. And, of course, over the last 2 years, we've seen so many safety innovations with put them in that cocoon, as we call it, with the headrest and the head and neck restraint devices. A lot of things have come along just in the last 2 years.
Let's get down to Ralph.
Well, I know he doesn't want to crawl out of there any sooner than he has to. He's debriefing with his own crew chief. Okay, what'd you think?
Oh my God. That is the most incredible experience I've ever had in my life. It was so different and unique at the beginning. I actually, it looked like I went in too deep in that one corner, went in the grass, but I actually didn't go in deep enough, or I didn't get on the brakes hard enough, and I jabbed the brakes, and the back end just turned on me. So, you know, just learning to use the curbs and how much you can get on the throttle. I mean, that traction control is a beautiful thing. So how much we'd love to have that over in our you know, actually, through the fast corners, amazing how much grip it has. I mean, the G-forces that my head took, unbelievable. On braking, I could feel me get lightheaded because so much blood rushed to the front of my head. I'd never experienced that before, but, you know, when you learn how the traction control works, you can just lay in the throttle so hard. And the only other problem I had is that, you know, they tricked me. They've got it where it automatically goes up in gear, but I have to manually do it down in gear. So I'm so used to it going up in gears, I'd like, oh, I forgot I got a downshift.
How tough was it to launch this thing?
Well, I haven't launched yet. You know, I just went out there and just stood on the pedal and just let it go. But we're thinking about maybe doing a launch on this next, and that would be pretty cool. But I don't know. There's so many technical things going on this steering wheel. I don't know if I want to complicate things anymore.
You know, unofficially, we got you about a second off of the grid. Do we need to start the rumor, or are you going F1 racing?
No, I can see where you know, getting that last second is really, really tricky. You know, I'd love to sit in here and play with the car a little bit. Yeah, I feel it's a little bit tight. Yeah, I'd like to take a little front brake bias out of it, but that experience right there in itself is what I came here for. You know, yeah, I don't know what that Winston Cup car is going to feel like when I get to Sears Point in a couple of weeks, but what a fun, awesome experience, and I just can't thank everybody enough for pulling this together.
I don't know, guys. He looks pretty good sitting in that cockpit there. It seems to fit him well. And Bob, you know, I've seen him in a lot of victory lanes, but I've never seen him smile that big.
Yeah, he is like a kid in a candy store.
I'm going to tell you, his line looks so good. I mean, I don't really know what a Formula One line should look like at this place, watching it on a monitor, but boy, he sure did look awfully smooth. And the thing I'm seeing is a grin on Jeff Gordon's face. That yeah, he's had probably 62 times for his 62 wins, but he's having a big time.
Yeah, he did well. There's no doubt about that. The engineers are pleased with him.
It's unreal how fast that thing brakes. I got close to that 51 time and scared myself enough. I was like, okay, I'll back it up. But you get to the 100 mark and you're trying to push the car away from you because you're like, there ain't no way it's going to stop. But it does. It's amazing, the brakes. I mean, that's what.
You went flat through here, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Easy. Once I got off the last, that last kind of tight, the car kind of bumps and gets understeer there, so I didn't feel like I could get in as soon as I wanted to. But from there, I was flat all the way down. I mean, I felt definitely. It's like someplace on the slower places, I could feel a little bit of oversteer when I'm riding like over a curve. But as soon as you go to the gas, it just straightens right out.
When it oversteers, you go on the throttle, the traction control comes in straight away.
That took me a little while. Like I wasn't using the traction control, and once I figured that baby out, I mean, I just started letting it as a brrr, and it just boom. Very cool, man. Thank you so much. Awesome. I somehow I just don't think I got the same ride that you did, or you got the same ride that I did. So.
No, believe me, I had a lot of fun. I am having a lot of fun. Because for me, like this, I'm so used to. With that, you know, you go and it's like it goes, and you don't know how far you can go. You know, with this, sometimes you're the limit. With that, you know, the car can be the limit, but you can like learn to push it a bit more. It's really exciting.
The other thing is, like we talked about, the corner comes up so fast that that, you know, you let off the gas, you feel the car decelerate, and you think, oh, I'll be fine, but then all of a sudden you're there, and that's what I found. The corner just is like, bam, right there, as soon as you get out of the gas. So, it's awesome. I got to have some head supports if I'm going to go back out, man. I tell you what, that baby will wear your neck out.
How much respect did you guys earn for each other based on the types of cars that you do drive? I mean, professionally, you both have to have a lot of respect for each other, but now you've had a chance to sample each other's stuff.
But for me, I gotta say, you know, especially when you go through the fast corners, how light the car is. Imagine, you know, in an oval, it's gotta be, you need to really get a car right. It's like in every, you know, like this is the same. You need to get a really good balance to go quick. Where I think in that you need to get a really good balance to get to the end.
How about you, Jeff? Did you earn a lot of respect for him today?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I know his neck's in shape, that's for sure. You know, it's just amazing the side loads that the cars have. And it's like he said, the limits a lot of times are with the driver, how hard you can push it. And that, you know, that extra, that bit of time that I would need, it would take so much because, you know, it's just finding the limits of myself, finding the limits of the car. And using the curbs. I mean, you got to have a lot of confidence and know that corner is coming up fast and just get in there and just manhandle it and just kind of go after it and be real aggressive, where our car aggressiveness can slow you down.
Well, there you have it, Bob. Bench racing is such a big part of our sport, and the two best drivers in the world just said, hey, we're some of the best drivers in the world. And we won't solve this battle today, will we?
I'm just sitting here trying to do the math. How many tens of thousands of racing miles do these guys have between them? And yet here they are, like a couple of kids with their go-karts saying, man, you have got some good stuff there. Welcome back to Indianapolis. Now, if you're a NASCAR fan watching these Grand Prix cars for the first time, you may want to check out Speed Channel's coverage of Formula One. This can be seen Sunday beginning at 12:30 p.m. with Peter Windsor in the Grand Prix paddock in Montreal. Join Steve Matchett, David Hobbs, Rick DeBrule, and Peter for the Canadian Grand Prix this weekend here on Speed Channel. Now, you've heard the drivers refer to going out again. It's been left up to them. If they'd like to take a few more laps, they can, and we've been told that they will. So we'll take another break and come back to watch Jeff Gordon and Juan Pablo Montoya having the time of their professional lives. And we expect Jeff Gordon will be back out in the Williams BMW momentarily. We'll take another break and return for more fun with race cars at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. With you live for Trade and Paint. Now, there's the phone number to call for your tickets to the Brickyard 400 in August and the U.S. Grand Prix at Indy in September. 1-800-822-INDY. You can also go to the internet, brickyard.com or usgpindy.com. Line up your tickets for some of the greatest motoring events in the world.
Now, Steve, I'm going to assume that the launch that Jeff was talking about, that's what we see at the beginning of every one of those Formula One races. That's how they start the race. You don't have anybody up there saying boogity, 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 do you?
No, we don't. No, that's right. You're absolutely right, Larry. Launch control is a method of exactly as it describes, launching the car off the grid positions there, where you can arm it to change gear automatically and upshift to control the clutch mechanism and everything with a launch button on the steering wheel. Now, as soon as the driver presses the brakes at the end of the straight and the car detects wheel speed is decreasing, it'll automatically shut off the launch control system and go back to a manual control system. But that's what it is. Launch control is a way of starting the race.
To answer your question, Larry, David Hobbs says some pretty goofy things sometimes. Let's get down to Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Tony Ross is the lead engineer or chief engineer on this Williams. And Tony, did you guys make any changes to the car to fit Jeff for this next stint?
No, we just fitted a new set of tyres for him, just so he gets to feel the grip on a new set of tyres. Just going to go out there, do a launch start, then do a couple of time laps, and then the cars will join up together. So just make him a little bit more comfortable in the car. Obviously, with the G-forces with this car compared to the NASCAR, a little bit more. So putting a bit of padding on the side of the cockpit just to help him support his head. And then let him loose again.
You get to work with two of the best drivers in the world, Ralph Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. How impressed were you with Jeff?
He was very good. He just worked consistently down on the lap times, and it's perfect.
Bob?
Thanks very much, Ralph. Couldn't come up with a better summation of what these guys are doing. Impressive. Creeping up on it. We'll come back in a moment to see how Jeff does in a Formula One Grand Prix start. Welcome back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jeff Gordon just said, my only real problem is my helmet keeps wanting to fly off my head in this car. And that's a pretty common complaint from drivers who are used to having a roof over their head when they get into an open cockpit car like this Williams BMW. Ralph Shaheen is there.
Yeah, Bob, look, he's added wind deflectors right here and up at the top of the helmet, and they've changed back here as well where where it locks into the helmet. They just did that literally moments ago to get Jeff ready for this. His head was really buffeting around, and he's getting all set to go. Hey, how nervous are you about doing this launch, Jeff? Oh, looks like he's talking to the mechanics. They're giving him directions here, so he's getting ready to get started. He is really a little concerned about getting this launch right because, as we said before, and Steve Match can go through it, there's a tremendous amount of things that go into launching one of these Formula One cars.
Yeah, it is. It's a complex procedure, really. It's all a matter of getting onto the grid, pulling the car back down into neutral. So you'll probably see Jeff doing that with his left hand on the steering wheel. Then the launch control mechanism will work out, preset by the engineers would have done that this morning, the amount of grip on the track, and it's all about controlling the wheel spin, a little bit like drag racing. You don't want too much wheel spin because obviously that loses time off the grid, but you've got to control it right, because if you don't get enough wheel spin, you just a little bit, the clutch will drag and stall the car. So it's all about the engineers setting that car up with the grip level. The big problem in race weekends comes if you get a wet day, then you have to change the strategy, because obviously the grip level of the track will change enormously and you get huge amounts of wheel spin. If you've set the launch control up for dry conditions, vice versa, you'll stall the car. So tricky procedure for the engineers to do. Now for the driver, it's really a matter of getting onto the grid, down into neutral, arming the launch control system and then releasing it on a button as soon as the lights go off. Remember in Formula One, Larry, we have the 5 red lights come on, and as soon as the lights go off, that's the start of the race.
You know, in a Winston Cup race like at Michigan this weekend in that 400-miler year, there's a lot of elements that's important in that race. We always look at that final pit stop, those final adjustments. But what Formula One races I've watched on television, it seems like that launch, the start of the race, can be a big key to the outcome of that race as well.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's touch and go whether or not the drivers really want launch control and or the teams want it. It's a way of controlling the car to a degree, but it's not really controlling technology in the way that traction control is. I would be happy to see launch control go away and stop with traction control itself, but take launch control off the car.
Well, the age-old rhyme in racing, it's about winning.
It's about winning.
And as I looked at these two cars, I found two resemblances between these two types of cars, these two types of races. They both have 4 wheels, and the goal is to win. And the radio antenna was the same.
Let's listen as Jeff gives it some stick. So
what kind of grade did you give him on that launch, Steve?
Well, I think the engineers were helping me enormously there.
Couldn't ask for better than that, as far as I'm concerned. For a first-timer,
fastest lap in that first session was 1:17:29 on his 5th lap. He ran 6 laps, so I'm going to about bet the house he's going to go quicker.
It was interesting, Larry, in the break when we were talking about ride height adjustments. I asked Larry how much ride height adjustment you would do on a cup car during the race weekend, and it's basically nothing because the thing's set by templates, right?
Very little, because NASCAR mandates a roof height 10 inches back from the windshield. They mandate the quarter-pound heights, and they check those heights before the race and after the event. Now, can the driver in the cockpit, can he adjust the ride heights of this car? Is it cockpit adjustable?
No, we used to be able to do that in Formula One back in 92 and 93 with active suspension, when it used to have 4 actuators on the corners as opposed to springs and dampers. By then the engineers could adjust the ride height, the pitch rate and everything on the car, yaw rate, spring rates, roll bar rates, everything could be done with hydraulics. Now they have to use torsion bars, dampers and springs as a regular car would do, but it doesn't allow the drivers to adjust the ride height. However, with all the technology on the cars and the telemetry coming off the cars, the engineers will ask the mechanics to make ride height adjustments as little as like 0.5 millimeter ride height adjustment on the car will affect the performance of the car down the straight by speeding up the airflow, the velocity increase of the air underneath the car.
Now, for you good old stock car boys watching our trade and paint show, a damper would be a shock, I think.
That's right. That's right. Absorber. Well, that's part of the thrill of Formula One, I think. It is very much a factory sport, a garage sport. It's a technology fight unlike any other. And that's, frankly, not the right cup of tea to a lot of fans. But for those of us who love it, it's great fun.
But it's amazing on Sunday morning when the Formula One races are on. They're on very early in the morning here on the East Coast and Central Time. How many of the Winston Cup teams and drivers are in the front of those haulers in the lounge with the Formula race on?
Well, racers are racers.
I think so. And I've been impressed during this trade and paint experience. I'm very impressed with NASCAR technology in the way that it's very basic. But like we're 74, nearly 900 brake coming out of those engines, I think is wonderful stuff.
Minute 16:46 for Mr. Gordon on that lap. He's picked up another second. And this is not a crew chief stopwatch. I'm giving you the real time. So how much difference can those wind deflectors and things they were putting on Jeff's helmet, what kind of difference can they really make, Steve?
Well, what it will control is, I guess the difference between the Cup car and the Formula One car we're seeing here is, of course, it's an open cockpit, so there's an awful lot of air buffeting around, and air will get inside Jeff's helmet and try and pull the helmet off, right? So I guess what they've done is basically to vent the helmet to take that air away from it, because inside the Cup car, I'm guessing the air is much less, the buffeting is much less because of the surround of the screen, so it wouldn't really affect the helmet in the same way. So what they're trying to do is just evacuate the air build-up, the pressure build-up inside the helmet.
We're going to take one more break. We'll do it when Jeff Gordon comes around to complete this lap, and we'll come back to watch he and Juan Pablo Montoya take their parade laps in their respective vehicles. You're watching a couple of the best in the world living the dream here at Indianapolis.
Slow down a little bit. Minute 16:86. Not bad, though.
Might have been looking for the DuPont Monte Carlo that time around. Stay with us for more live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Trade and Paint. To the end of our Trade and Paint program. There you see Juan Pablo Montoya on the left, Jeff Gordon on the right, doing their laps of honor here at the Speedway. Time for final thoughts. Let's begin down in the pit area with Ralph Shaheen.
Well, Bob, as race fans, we all have our favorite series and our favorite drivers, and when we go bench racing, we like to argue about which one is better. And I think you heard it when I talked to both these drivers at the same time just a little while ago. They both have mutual respect for each other and for their forms of racing. So the argument of who is better will race on for years to come. And I'm just glad we were able to bring Speed Channel here today and show a little bit of that.
I agree with you, Ralph. It's great to see this. I hope we do it every year. It'd be fun to bring a couple of guys from different parts of the sport together and let them trade race cars.
Well, you know, to bring guys from different forms of motorsports together and let them do this here. But when you think about NASCAR Winston Cup and Formula One, it's, as I said earlier, the only resemblance is four wheels and it goes to win. It's neat that the two series can bring the best of their respective series together, and they can do this. A guy from Colombia, South America, a guy from California, and they're having fun and swapping rides.
Two guys could not be more different as individuals, but they share a common interest and a common language. Steve, what are your thoughts?
I think it's been great fun. I think it's been a nice family get-together. The Winston Cup car and the Formula One crews together, and I've seen the mechanics from both fields swapping over and talking to each other, enjoying themselves, watching each other's technology. It's been a great get-together, and I've enjoyed it very, very much, I have to say.
Once again, we want to thank the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, both teams and their crews and their sponsors for allowing an event like this to happen in this modern age. And once again, I hope we get a chance to do it again sometime soon. Down through the short chute they come. A bit like the Ferrari teammates, Schumacher and Barrichello at this racetrack not too long ago. Once again, be sure to have your tickets for the Brickyard 400, the 10th running, coming up the weekend of August 3rd, and of course, the 4th running of the U.S. Formula One Grand Prix at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway the weekend of September 28th. For our Speed Channel crew, Ralph Shaheen, Steve Matchett, and Larry McReynolds, I'm Bob Varsha. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. For now, so long from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana.